Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another live AMA session with the OPP. We are coming to you from the Sunshine City of Aurelia at General Headquarters. This building actually sits on the traditional lands of the the Chippewas of Rama. Always mix those two. And it's this whole area is steeped in beautiful history. If you've never been, make sure you come down, come visit our museum. It's a great place. If you have questions about recruitment, we have a recruitment office here, and opp.ca/careers is where you'll find the information that you need. I have two very special guests with me today, Acting Inspector Alicia McCachran. Boy, I'm really having a tough time today. And Sergeant Catherine Ross. Now, our theme today is Fit for Duty, Fit for Life. I think you're going to really enjoy the insight that you're going to get, the information. Again, I'd ask if you're watching, you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll try to get to them. And if we don't, you can always keep sending us stuff at the Uniform Recruitment mailbox. I'm going to jump right in. Fit for life, fit for duty. It's a big topic, fitness, mental wellness. Start with you, Acting Inspector. May I call you Alicia?
Sure, please
Okay,
do.
please call me Vinny. And Sergeant, can I call you Kat?
Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, so that'll make it easier for me because I seem to be stumbling on the names today. So tell us, Alicia, where exactly do you work out of? How did you get there? Give us a glimpse of your journey through the OPP that brought you to the chair you're in today.
Okay, thanks so much, Vinny, for the introduction. So I currently work as the unit commander. I'm acting in the position of inspector for the emergency management unit. My home position is the manager staff sergeant in the emergency management unit, and we oversee all of the contingency planning for the OPP. So making sure that we have plans for the what ifs, that is the role of our unit, and we're also responsible for the emergency operations center.
That sounds like a really important job.
It is very important whenever we have ongoing public safety incidents and being able to respond effectively to our communities that we serve.
Now, if you could briefly walk us through the journey that got you there. You're a brand new recruit. How do you end up in that kind of role?
So I was on auxiliary actually before I got hired as uniform. I was auxiliary at Nottawasaga, and then I ended up getting hired in 2010 and started uniform at Caledon Detachment. Prior to policing, I actually worked for Emergency Management Ontario, which gave me a bit of insight into the emergency management side of policing, which has helped me get to where I am today. That being said, when I was at Caledon, I worked frontline in our community response unit and also spent time in the community street crime units, all fantastic opportunities. Had the pleasure of being able to work at Barrie Detachment as well for a little while, and also completed a couple of northern deployments to some of our remote communities.
Wow, it sounds like you've had a very diversified right off the bat. I'm glad you put in a plug for the auxiliary. Huge supporter of that program. We work in partnership with them, and we hire a lot from our auxiliary. It's kind of become a farm team for us. So you're at Caledon doing street crime, stuff like that. How do you transition to this building? Because you're in general headquarters.
I am in general headquarters in Aurelia here, and I ended up applying actually for a constable emergency management planner position, actually in this unit where I'm back now today, and was successful in that competitive process and was involved in assisting the organization in enhancing our pandemic planning and our continuity of operations planning. From that position there, I received some additional training and exposure in relation to instructional techniques, and was actually recruited and encouraged to apply to a position in the Provincial Police Academy, which was where I was promoted into an instructor role in the Provincial Police Academy, where I had the opportunity to instruct recruits as well as our senior officer courses in several specialized areas.
That's a great journey that you've been on, and it's funny how your past comes back to help you now. And then is it from the academy that you ended up in a staff sergeant seat?
That is exactly what happened. So there were a few major events in the province of Ontario, as you may recall, COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the Freedom Convoy events in 2022. that I continue to be engaged in the emergency management side of the organization. And the opportunity itself to continue to thrive with, again, because that's pretty much core to the organization. Important area, and that's how I've ended up back to the emergency management unit now as a staff sergeant.
Well, that's thank you for sharing that journey with us, and I know it's very encouraging to people that watch because they always want to know what happens after you become an officer. Are there opportunities? The opportunities are endless, and it's great to hear it from someone else than me that's always telling them, but to hear it from someone. Now, Kat, I'd like to do the same thing with you. Kat's office is near mine. We cross each other in the hallways all the time. And I would like you to share your story, similarly, where you started, how you ended up where you are.
Sure. Thanks very much. Yeah, I'm excited to be here today and to share a little bit of my journey. So, Vinny, you had mentioned how many years have you been with the OPP? I had a different start. So, I started 5 years with the Midland Town Police Service. I was a municipal officer. That's where I started and began my career. I had an exciting 5 years as a municipal officer, and then I was looking beyond and doing some career planning, and I made a decision to apply to the OPP. So I've been part of the OPP family. I started my policing career in August 2003 with the municipal service, and I'm in my 21st year of policing. So it's been great to join the provincial service for me and my career goals. I started in Wasaga Beach with the OPP. So fast, dynamic, exciting place, great team spirit amongst our shifts, and was able to get my OPP roots there. I was there about 5 years, and then I went into our in-service training unit. So essentially, I was a teacher in the OPP for almost 6 years. I got to train all the officers in Central Region, as well as our auxiliaries in firearm defensive tactics, case law updates. We ran judgment scenarios. It was an exciting and fantastic job, knowing I'd go home at night knowing that I was preparing my OPP family for when they're called upon to act. And that also includes first aid. And go ahead, Vinny, sorry.
I was just I remember training under your tutelage. I remember being on the range with you as one of my instructors on requal times, and I think even in canine you came and did some training with us. So yeah, I remember those days very well.
It was great. What a great way to connect with so many of our members, and it was absolutely a pleasure to see them come back year after year to train together, to talk about stories that have shaped us, things that we would debrief, to make sure that we were in the best position to serve our communities. So that was a really exciting time in my career. I thoroughly enjoyed it. From there, it was great because working in Aurelia for me and working in Central Region in service training, I got to talk to people about their careers. I got to have great conversations, and I decided to look more into our corporate services end of or area of professional service. And I applied to a sergeant position within the municipal policing service. So that's where I was promoted. I currently am still there and have been there over 4 years as a sergeant. So essentially, what we do is we do contracts for the OPP. So we are more on the business side of things. So I've done some kind of different pivots in my career. I'm a person who enjoys variety. I really like to challenge myself. So for me, moving to different aspects within the organization was exciting. So I'm more, again, in the corporate services area. We do amalgamation. So some viewers might be familiar with maybe Dryden Municipal Council put in a costing request with the OPP. So our team puts together the package. We present to municipal councils. And if they decide that the OPP is the right service for their community, we come in and do everything for that transition. So right from day one,
kind of a good fit. Yeah, great fit for you coming from a municipal service yourself. So you're now in a business that brought you to the OPP. And I think it's neat that you both come from streams that we recruit a lot from. Not like Alicia with your auxiliary experience, and Kat, the EPO stream. We have, I would say, a few hundred EPOs every year that are trying to jump ship in a way to come to the OPP because we're such a great organization, and you're a success story from that. Was there more that you want to add about where you're at with your career-wise?
That's more or less in a nutshell. What I would like to just mention quickly is that I've had opportunities to do a temporary assignment within our risk management section, which was exciting and different to see what happens to support our organization in the area of evaluating risk. And of course, that comes in the litigation side of the house as well. So there's just so many areas that you can go, so many interesting places and things to add to your career. And I also support one of our acting deputy commissioners as an executive officer part-time as well. So I do that as again, just another opportunity to see another area of the organization and to support and serve in a different way.
You're both in roles. It's very interesting. You're both in roles that people don't get to see. Everybody knows they exist. There's people behind the scenes, right? To keep an organization going, to keep officers going on the front line, it takes an army of people in the background that look after all the other stuff. So it's really nice to get a glimpse of that through both of your careers. Now, I know you both recently participated in Woman Bound that we had, OPP Bound for Women here in Aurelia, a huge successful event. Now, I got to participate the first day to do a session, and they didn't let me come back the second day because it was an event geared towards women. But I heard that you both had amazing sessions there. And I'd like you to touch a bit about that. Start with you, Alicia. What was the wellness part that you were doing there?
So thanks for the question, Vinny. So my role on the second day of OPP Women's Bound was really to touch on mindfulness and the importance of mindfulness. So fitness has always been a priority and interest of mine, in line with the concept of fit for duty, fit for life. And as I continue to grow in my education as it related to fitness, breathing became more important to me and recognized I could leverage the strength of breath to reach new goals, improvements, and almost level up in a sense. So I began meditation as a practice to help support fitness goals as well as stress management. And when I was working in the Provincial Police Academy, I was approached to become a mindful at work instructor and now actually support education and training internally to support our organizational well-being, as we've now actually introduced mindfulness onto our supervisor courses, and they are working to incorporate it into our recruit training program. So I was honored whenever I was asked to actually be able to share some of that mindfulness techniques and practices that are less traditional. I would say when people think of mindfulness, they're probably thinking of someone sitting in silence, holding a pose or a position for an extended period of time, when there's actually so many different ways in which we can be mindful in what we're doing. And this was just an opportunity for me to give our potential members joining us to have an insight into how mindfulness can become a part of our daily practices, and we can incorporate them into everything that we do.
That's awesome, and I'm going to get you to talk a bit more about that just in a few minutes, because I want to talk about the tools and techniques. You each bring a really neat concept, and Kat and I were just talking, was it yesterday or the day before, about yoga. So Kat, tell us what your role at OPP Women's Bound and the kind of niche that you bring.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. So I had been asked to, I'm a certified yoga instructor in my civilian life. I am also a proponent of wellness. When we invest, I think, and make intentional decisions in our health, I think we perform better in all aspects of our life. I'm very passionate about that from a personal training perspective, from a yoga perspective. So I was asked to put together a short yoga program, more as an introduction. And what I use yoga for is stress relief. I use it in a fitness aspect. And I think it has a lot to offer as our bodies adapt and change in our career. I think it's a complement to our fitness regime. And I think it just has a lot to offer overall from a holistic wellness point of view.
I have to agree with you. Like we discussed, I had done a training program a few years ago with a couple other officers called P90X3, and it had a week of yoga. I remember thinking, oh, that would be an easy day. That's a relaxed day. It was a lot tougher than I thought. And when I saw the level that some people can focus and control their body in yoga positions, it was mind-blowing. It was a really eye-opening experience. And I'm hoping that maybe in retirement I'll be able to find out some more about that. In speaking about that, One of the things that always comes up is resilience. It's important to be resilient, and we talk about how resilience is needed in policing. I'll start with you, Alicia. If you could tell us, why is resilience important, and what do you do to stay resilient? How do you make it to where you are? You obviously need resilience. I've come through all the different positions. And what was your secret? What's your key thing?
Um, for me, resilience is an ongoing practice and process. And I think it's something that we need to proactively take steps and be vigilant and monitor ourselves and our own wellness to be able to make sure that we're able to contribute fully to the OPP and our careers as a whole, right? We have lives outside of policing, but it's making sure that we're able to be present and to be in a good state in both of those locations, right? So for me, mindfulness has become something that's an important part of my practices to be able to ground myself. And mindfulness is also something that we can incorporate in our daily activities when we're thinking about actually just being present. So, shutting out all the outside factors that we have going on in our lives. If you have a smart watch and, Vinny and I are having a conversation and someone sends me a text, rather than looking at my phone and recognizing that, oh, someone texts me, it's being present and actually engaging in that conversation. So, things like that are important. But from a resiliency side of things, tools for myself to help build my own resiliency is maintaining my friendships outside of policing. So important to have that connection to other people that aren't in the policing world to be able to have, we'll call normal conversations with other people, right? To be able to have those people that we can talk about real life with, and we're not expected to carry on some sort of policing related conversation. I also find resiliency wise, fitness is a big thing for me. Um, before this, we were just talking about the importance of our fitness pin, and that's again one of those things, lifelong commitment to fitness. It's been integral in maintaining my resiliency, stress management, and being able to really be present and be able to do the things that I want to do on and off duty, right? So
I love the way you put exactly. So you're not only you being present, you're doing that by actively listening, engaging. Fitness plays a component. And you said one piece there. You said, in my civilian life, we all have. Or Kat said earlier, in my civilian life, and you mentioned we have lives outside of policing. Very important point that a lot of people don't realize. We're human. We're not always wearing this. We don't have a Teflon suit, and things don't just bounce off of us. Life gets to us too. And Kat, you had mentioned in my civilian life. So I'm going to ask you the same thing. In your civilian life, how it's helped you in your policing life, but what's resiliency for you and how do you work on that?
Yeah, thank you. So I really think that at the heart for me of resiliency is just living with great quality of life. And I think that's all through our career and beyond. So that's a real focus for me as I support members within the OPP. I am a fitness appraiser. I also am a nutrition coach and a personal trainer. So what's nice is that I've done the shift work, I've worked the road, I've worked in multiple areas of the OPP. So having that real knowledge and understanding of the demands, I can connect with my OPP family to be able to best support them with those additional certifications. So I think resiliency really is just great quality of life. It's almost a reset switch. So Alicia talked about, distractions. And I think when we become a police officer, and I think it's probably innately in us if we're applying to the job, is we're planners. I'm thinking about a call, I'm going to a call. We're always in that kind of feedback loop of thought process. So I think for resiliency, so going from a high state of awareness, and I do believe, I call it the elastic band, but in order to let the elastic band go back to its maybe natural shape, if you're a picture person, I really like yoga. For me is a great outlet. It gives me the time and space and a place where I can decompress to that full level without distraction. I can be in connecting with my body and my spirit and my soul in a really kind of neutral, safe place. So, that's one of the things that I do. I also lift heavy weights. I love to do that. I believe in a really well-balanced approach. So that includes weight training. But the part I never really stressed enough in my younger career and pre-policing was I thought I could just go all the time at maximum speed. We don't drive sports cars like that. We should not drive our bodies like that.
Absolutely.
Finding real soulful relaxation without the distraction, like Alicia was talking about, is probably at the heart of resiliency as well. So it's a very personal journey. So finding something that works for you, it doesn't have to be yoga, is really what's important.
I love the analogy you use of the elastic. I'm an analogy kind of person, so I can visualize that, and it makes so much sense. And I like that you both have, you said find what works for you. Alicia, you're like, being mindful. That's your place where you get yourself situated, actively listening. Kat, you're talking about yoga, and it doesn't. You're right. There isn't an answer for everything. Find what works for you. Go look for ways, and there's people asking, how do I practice meditation? Google it. There's all kinds of resources out there to find ways to get some help. And I've often said resilience, some of it comes naturally, you're born with it. I think parents, I don't have any children, I'm not responsible enough, but parents are born with this resilience when it comes to their kids. Doesn't matter how tired they are, they'll always have the energy they need to look after their kids. Doesn't matter what's going on. And kids are resilient. Tomorrow's a brand new day. I might see a unicorn, right? But as you get older, sometimes you're like, hey, I don't have resilience in this specific area. How can I build it? And you both mentioned that you can actually build resilience. And it's through using techniques and being aware that you need to develop those things. And for police officers, it's often stuff we do in our outside life, outside of policing, that make us better, stronger, that we can bring that strength into our policing side. I love the different nuances that you both bring from this, and just by looking at the comments, people are just agreeing with you and saying, oh, well. Now, I want to, we talked about two of the tools. I know that we ask applicants on their applications, I want to make this a point for people that are watching. When we ask you about your fitness and what you do for stress management, it's important that you mention these things. Maybe you play video games, maybe you're learning music. I was learning piano with these sausage fingers, believe it or not. It doesn't matter what it is that you do. We want to see that you're doing something, whether it's fitness or some other type of involvement. But it's very important that you show us that on your application. And on the fitness logs, there's a section where we ask you, how many hours are you sleeping? What are you doing for stress management? And we often see the fitness reports come in where this is the workouts I did, but they don't say anything about the rest and the stress management. So I want to make sure I tell people that are watching, put the details down. We want to see them. Now, if somebody was who's watching is like, okay, wow, because a few people have asked, how do I start? How do I get into this? Is there any, I'll start with you, Alicia. What would you recommend? Somebody's like, okay, where do I start? I'm thinking about this mindfulness. Where would you point them? What would be?
So a few considerations. First of all, as you said, you can Google anything, right? But what I would recommend is if you are familiar with the SMART goal settings, let's be realistic about where we're starting from. With mindfulness, I genuinely say 1 to 2 minutes a day is a good foundation for us to start. And mindfulness, you can go towards formal meditations, whether or not you're downloading the Calm app or you have a fitness application that has free meditations in it. There are a lot of free resources out there, but something as simple as, I like to call it Take 5. And it is just sitting down in a seat, having your feet grounded on the floor, and taking 5 breaths, however deep you want them to be, and just counting them on your hand, those 5 breaths to reset yourself. That is what we think about when we're thinking about the foundation of mindfulness. Is I might do that before going into work, maybe before I know I'm going to start a longer meeting, or I have a decision note I need to write. I've got some paperwork I need to do, whatever it is. Taking those 5 breaths, I find that's a great way for me to give myself a clean slate to move forward and be mindful and focused on what it is I'm trying to accomplish, right? So
I see that more and more on people's applications about controlled breathing. And when I first started seeing that, I was like, I never knew it was a thing, so I kind of researched it a bit. So I'm glad that you're talking about that. I've tried those techniques, and I was amazed at how you can calm yourself down almost. Your inner self, you can just like, ooh, just come to a place quite quickly just by controlling your breathing. So I echo what you're saying. I've tried it, it works, and I would strongly encourage people to try stuff like that.
And I would encourage you before, if you're coming in for an interview or something like that, take those breaths, right?
Yeah, maybe we should instruct our recruiters
Yeah.
to do that breathing technique with the candidate before we start.
Before you start the interview.
Same question for you, Kat. What would you recommend? Somebody's thinking maybe more on the yoga side. That's your like. How does someone start? How do you?
Yeah, so I just want to just make a quick little comment because you guys brought up some points, and I just want to dovetail it into training. So breathing techniques are really pivotal when we are training in our firearms, and some of the other aspects within our like in-service training and some of our, so to steady the mind and the body, to prepare or to decompress from what we've just done. So just to echo some important facets of breathing. To prepare, yoga is really versatile. Again, you don't need yoga to be a well-rounded, healthy person. But if you are looking at adding it to your fitness or your wellness regime, I would just sit down and do a self-evaluation first. What do you like? If you like something or a different style of yoga speaks to you, you're curious about it, I would explore that avenue. There's all different types, such as maybe a hot vinyasa class where it's really high power, high energy. It's very challenging. The nice thing is the more you connect throughout your body with minor movements and when you're paying attention, muscles that fire together wire together. So you're doing such great things for your body when you actually slow down and pay attention. So you can do a style maybe like a yin if you're looking for, to add a day of relaxation to your fitness regime. So that would be long held poses. And it's more of a mental challenge because you're staying in a position for a long period of time. And part of the goal with that is to relax and quiet the mind while you're staying in that position, which I think for a lot of us as planners, high energy, sometimes maybe more of an A-type personality, that is a real challenge and probably tougher than a hot vinyasa class for me because I'm really working on my mental fitness and creating space in my mind and my body to be more grounded and to be just calm and resilient. So I would just recommend chasing something that you're curious about, exploring your local studio, or there's great online yoga teachers to follow, but find something that speaks to you.
Yeah, it's great advice from both of you. And one of the things that I would say also is you have to take the time. I've often said that being a police officer won't make you fit. You have to make fitness part of your life. We sit a lot. We sit at a desk, we sit in a cruiser. And I think the same goes with our mental fitness. You have to take the time to train. It's not going to happen at work. Like work is busy. You're in a state of alert. We say we operate in condition orange, where we're always just ready to respond. So it's a heightened state of awareness. You need to take the time at the end of your day, or at the start of your day, on your lunch break, to invest and to bring in yourself into that place. It takes time to train the body. I think it's the same with the mind and with the soul, and just calming ourselves down. So I like that we're getting two very different approaches, same goal. Find what works for you. That's great advice. Now, when it comes to resources within the OPP, if either of you, will start with you, Alicia, is there a resource that you would recommend? Is there a resource that you've used that you open to share with? Resources that the OPP have offered that you know of, or that maybe you've referred someone to, that we have to help us in those areas?
So we have quite a few different resources. Actually, I would say we are very lucky to have the plethora of resources that we do have in our organization, from internal supports through our mental health clinicians, pathways of that sort, if we're looking for that resiliency side of things. But conveniently enough, actually, Catherine Ross is one of our many resources that we have at our disposal. So we actually have fitness appraisers within the organization. Some of them have actually been trained additionally in meal planning and actual personal training. So those are resources that are at our disposal. And I think that as an organization, we are so lucky to have access to them. But we do have quite a few internal programs as well that I personally haven't used, but I know a few members that have reached out for different supports in relation to different areas as it relates to resiliency, or we're looking for a care navigator to help us find the best resource possible. We do have those things available, and I'm very thankful that we have that ability to be able to help ourselves and the people that we work with to make sure that we are fit for duty and fit for life. So.
You're right. We do have amazing resources compared to when I think back in the mid 90s when I started, we didn't have those resources. And the OPP has really come a long way and has become a leader in policing when it comes to having resources. Same type of question to you, Kat. What would you say about our resources? Is there anything that you want to comment on?
Just our healthy workplace team is just like Alicia said. It's a plethora of resources. There's lots available for us. So if there's an area that you need support in, or so you'd like to explore, they're just a quick phone call away, right? They make access really easy. And I agree with you, Vinny. We've come a really long way. There's such things as running groups on lunch break, at least in our location. There's lots to get involved in. So, keep being curious, ask around. There's lunch and learn programs. There's, like I said, fitness appraisers. I'm thrilled to be one of the personal trainers so that we can link into our current fitness appraising network, and we can really get linked in with people, make the access really easy. And I think that's one area that the OPP's really worked on. And I think it's really broken down a lot of maybe potential barriers for people to just maybe ask that casual question. Listen, I don't want a full meal program. You know what? I'd like to clean up my eating a little bit, but is there a couple just quick things you could recommend that I could add to my daily, thought process that would help me make better choices? So it's right from informal to formal meal planning. So it's the whole continuum of things to support us in our health and wellness.
I think it's neat that you mentioned lunch and learn. I didn't even know. I was talking to Jen LaBelle, our FLS coordinator, just yesterday, and I proudly wear my Franco-Ontario pin, which means I'm a francophone, I'm a bilingual officer. But there's even a lunch and learn for people that want to learn French. So resources like that within the OPP, there's so many that I wouldn't even be able to list them all. But once you're in the organization, we do have so much to offer. Even our association, we have the program called Encompass. I have a lot of friends that I've interacted with it to say it's amazing the support that we receive. Now, one of the questions we just got specifically that somebody wanted me to ask was, from a female perspective, what advice would these officers, that would be the two of you, give to a female interested in applying with mental wellness before applying? So this female civilian that wants to apply to be an officer, any advice that you would give, how to prepare mentally over and above what you've already mentioned?
I can go first. So I have a little bit of experience and have had the opportunity to do some different trainings in relation to female leadership specifically. And one of the things that continuously comes up and has been researched on several different occasions is the fact that sometimes as females, we self-doubt ourselves and maybe perhaps underestimate our abilities. And I think one of the important things for you yourself is to recognize your skill sets, your potential, trust your gut, and with that, develop that mental wellness and the mental resiliency to recognize that you are going to be challenged. We are clearly not the majority of the organization, but recognizing that we have our own unique skill sets coming forward, and that we can leverage those unique skill sets to be able to help support our coworkers as well as the communities in which we're serving. And I think that that mental wellness piece as a female is sometimes there's more traditional expectations or roles for a female, and it's recognizing that you need to have those perhaps challenging or tough conversations with whatever your family life looks like, that partner, to be able to have an open and honest conversation about what you would like to do in your career, what policing looks like, that you will be working shift work, you'll be working afternoons, evenings. If you have children, if you have pets, whatever it is, how that shared responsibility of the home life, what it looks like for you. I think it's important to have those conversations so that you can go into this career having established what exactly life looks like outside of policing for you, so that whenever you come home from work, you are welcomed, you can be present, and there's no sort of tension in that situation. So that would just be my recommendation, is to have open and honest conversations, and do your research, right? If you're not sure about what policing frontline looks like, I know I am a recruitment ambassador, but we have so many recruiting resources available to help you understand what policing looks like, to make sure that you are in a space where you're able to fully commit to this career and recognize the excitement, the fantastic things that are going to come out of it, but also some of the challenges that you're going to face as you transition into this career.
Excellent advice, and you're right. We do have all kinds of resources there. I know that there's other woman-bound type events coming up, so I definitely encourage any of the women that are watching, apply for those events, because that's when you get to meet people like Alicia and Kat, and you get to talk about what their journey was. What was it like? Was there any barriers? And there's really a support network there. opp.ca/careers is where you'll find our events, like Alicia mentioned, that are advertised online. I do an information session every month here at General Headquarters. Sign up for one of those events. We talk about the whole application process from A to Z, and that's really the place. It's a good starting point. Now, I wanted to just backtrack, go back to the same advice for you, Kat. What would you give advice, like specifically for a woman, from a woman's perspective, someone thinking of applying?
Yeah, so Alicia brought up some really great points. So I just wanted to elaborate slightly. So I think sometimes female applicants have some hesitation due to the fact that it feels like a more masculine career. You're more physical, maybe, whereas traditionally, women can maybe take on a caregiver role. So I think just spending some time with that, and I think what we bring from the feminine energy perspective is really a strength. We might think or do things differently, but the beautiful thing in policing is that there's many ways to get things done. So it adds to the diversity and it complements our team. So I would just look to explore that a little bit internally and really kind of take some reflection time to look at what you bring from a feminine energy perspective to this career. It's needed, and you bring valuable insight and skill sets. And the other thing that really helped me as a woman, I tend to take on a lot of things. But the strategy that I adopted early on, it was some advice from another female officer as well. Not only are you taking on extra things, but more of Alicia's points is, what can you take off your plate? And involving family. What is, the win principle? Well, what's important right now? What can I take off my plate? Is there something that I did before that I can let go in order to pursue that goal I'm driving to? We just want to be cognizant of burnout and extending ourselves to the point that, we're not really doing anything well. So that reflection can be helpful. So those are the two things I would offer.
Excellent advice. I love the plate analogy. I've used that with people. I say, if you imagine being at a buffet, the buffet of life, and on your plate is your family right in the middle. Okay, but now there's a whole life. But how much stuff are you putting on that plate? And before long, you can't see what's important anymore. You might have even shoved it to the side to fit something else. It might have even fallen off your plate. You didn't even notice. So, be careful of how much you take on. Great advice from a woman's perspective, and I'm sure that really spoke to the person that asked a question. A couple of questions I want to answer from people. If you don't need your OACP to apply to the OPP, if you have it, include it with your application. If you're waiting to hear on stuff, usually within a few weeks you get some information as to what's next, what's coming up. As we get ready to wrap up here, because I love that this is a topic that we could go on and talk about. I really hope that people will take the advice you're giving, go research it, sign up for an event, hopefully an event where maybe the two of you are participating, if this is the type of stuff. You got to remember, fit for life, fit for duty. this is all about wellness, and wellness is the key to being successful, not just through a process, but as a police officer. I want to wrap up by asking you, and we've kind of covered this, but not just on the wellness piece now, because we always get questions about what's the best thing to do, what did you do? Thinking if you, without the wellness hat on, think back of when you applied to become an OPP officer. We'll start with you, Alicia. What advice would you give? And think back when you were applying. What advice would you give to a young person, an old person, anyone who's thinking, I'm going to apply to be an OPP officer? What's the advice you would give them? You get to give them one good piece of advice.
I would say make sure you are at your competitive best when you submit that application. So in alignment with recruitment, we have our 10 areas of assessment, the wheel, making sure that we've addressed and we're confident and comfortable in where we're at with that criteria, and just making sure that we know who we are, where we're going, and set those goals accordingly. But making sure that we're addressing all of those areas. So it was a while ago that I applied, but that being said, going through that process, being confident in myself to know that I was at my competitive best and I was ready for that. That's important.
That's bang on, because that's still the message we deliver today. The 10 areas of assessment is what the interview is about. That's how we're going to get to know how you think, what makes you tick. And so that's beautiful advice. Look at the areas of assessment. Come to an information session. I talk in detail about these areas and how to understand them, how to apply them to your life. That's very, very good key advice. Kat, same question to you. Put your recruit hat on from many years ago and tell us, what's the advice you're giving to someone thinking of becoming an OPP officer?
It is a great question, and I just want to make sure I try to do my best to package that message really clearly. But the couple points that I'd love to make today is really just take a breath and step into it. Commit to the process. Find joy in the process. It can feel daunting. It can feel like it's just so much. And I had great advice early on, and it was sometimes you got to slow down to speed up. So take that breath, step into that space confidently, and know that there's support and help along the way. So, decide on your commitment to fitness. Where you step in is just where you start. And you're never doing it alone. There's lots of people to pull the rope with you along the way. And then just have fun and enjoy the process throughout, and network and make those friendships and those connections, because it's a great career, and it's what you make it.
Absolutely. And great. If I ask the new recruits, I see them in the hallway right now because there's a class on, I'll see a group and I'll say, are you having fun? Because if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. There is a network and a support, and it's nice to see their faces light up. So great advice both ways. Thank you so much. The areas of assessment, sign up, commit yourself to the process. Don't know what it is that you're getting into. Somebody had asked, what's a good way to practice your communication skills? And I just want to throw that out there, because that's what I say at my sessions. Go volunteer. Go volunteer in your community, because volunteer work's all about talking to strangers, people you haven't met. It's a great way to practice your communication skills. And as police officers, a lot of our job is that. We're talking to strangers every day. So if you're thinking, how do I practice that? Go talk to strangers. And there's tons of places that would love to have you helping them as a volunteer. If we didn't get to your question, don't fret. You can always email your questions to Uniform Recruitment. I want to remind everyone that opp.ca/careers is where you'll find all kinds of resources, Q&A sections, different links to get some information to help you through the process. That's also where you'll see our upcoming events will be posted. We'll have another AMA in a few weeks. I think we're doing a bilingual AMA with my good friend Jennifer LaBelle, who's our FLS coordinator. So that'll be interesting. There's all kinds of events happening around the province. opp.ca/careers, go look it up, upcoming events. There's something in your area for sure. I want to thank you so much, Alicia and Catherine, for coming with us today, sharing your experience, your knowledge, your insight. I know that we'll get great feedback from that. And it's the type of feedback we love hearing from that, because now they got a glimpse today at something we don't often talk about. And I mean, I learned a lot just from chatting with you. Thank you so much for supporting our recruiting efforts and programs like these AMAs. A big shout out to you both. And we'll see you all in the hallways for the three of us. To everyone else, I wish you a safe day. We hope to see you apply one day.